Those who have been broken become the greatest menders. Look at people who get into a lot of work where they're helping others. Trace their story.
Grownish, smartish, British.
We are British, apparently.
I'm so confused. Are we running? We have Alim in the building. Hello, sir. Listen, I never have serious intros. I don't think I know how to. AKA, does this name still run? AK-16s, your alter ego.
No, so the AK-16s is a project where I just released like music that's 16 bars.
Yeah.
It's Alim Kamara. So it's not a name, it's more of
it's
more of a title for the project.
I got the 16s part.
You got the 16s,
yeah, 100%.
yeah,
But I just thought maybe you had a little...
No.
So you got your storytelling side, the motivational speaker side, and then you have your music side.
I'd say storytelling, and I would say storyteller and hip-hop artist.
Okay, cool.
Are the two titles, because it got to the point where so many titles were being thrown on me. I was like,
so
he's a poet,
yourself.
He's a comedian, and I'm like, just enough titles.
AKA.
Yeah.
AKA. 2 minutes later, AKA. No, so you don't class yourself as a motivational speaker?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
So you did Once Upon a Time?
I did Once Upon a Time.
God.
But that was because I didn't think a storyteller title would be valuable.
Okay.
So I used it as a cloak.
So do you feel the storyteller title has now evolved and it's now powerful enough for you to sort of stand
I've
strong
chosen
with it?
to embrace it.
That's it.
And once the moment I chose to, because I got invited to Argentina.
Nice.
To do just storytelling in schools.
That's
and
amazing.
I was like, what?
That's incredible.
And I did something like 17 schools and 50 workshops.
Wow.
Back to back.
How did that make you feel?
Something else. This week alone, at one school, I saw up to 1,000 children at Harris School.
Wow.
Class after class, doing
How do they
spoken
receive you,
word.
the kids?
Oh, listen. So at the end of the week, they all gathered in their assembly hall.
Yeah.
And so all the children I'd seen throughout the week, it was magic.
Do you ever feel some resistance with these kids in the beginning where they're like, who's this guy? Because some of them think they're too cool for school.
You get that. And then actually, this is what happened in one situation where there was a young boy, he kept on talking to the guy next to him. He's talking. I'm like, chill. Third time, I went up and I said, miss, excuse me. And I picked up his chair with him in it. Carried it over to the other side.
Relocation.
And then he was upset for like good 20 minutes. And then I needed some people but as I was performing, I saw him start to smile.
Yeah.
And then when I needed some people to come up and read, he put his hand up.
Swear.
Yeah.
I would have picked him.
So I picked him. Oh yeah, he came up. Then when he finished, I gave him like the biggest. I got everyone to rumble their feet just to raise up, you know what I mean, how he was feeling, his feelings and his emotions and that, just to switch it up. And yeah, he was good and came up to me afterwards and high-fived me. So I was like, all right, we're cool, we're bridgings.
So what made you realise, like, this is my calling, like to go into school specifically, like, because I know some people do poetry, these spoken words, and it's mainly aimed at adults. So what made you think, nah, I want to do something for the children?
So it started off with hip hop. So I perform my raps and sometimes I'll do them a cappella, which people would say, oh, he's a poet. And I'm like, no, I'm just a rapper that's not rapping on the music today. And then teachers started asking me to come into schools and do workshops.
So you never reached out to schools? It was just
initially. And then I got asked to be by the NHS to be a sexual health educator.
Okay, how did this happen? Sorry, I'm trying to connect the dots from speaking.
Yeah,
hip-hop.
so this is we're going back in the beginning. So it's like it was just the lady that was working for the NHS at the time. She knew me from school. And then she was like, yo, I see what you're doing. Would you be interested? And I was like, it sounds all right. So I gave it a go. But there were 4 subjects that we used to cover. And they were self-esteem, relationships, STIs, and contraception.
Interesting.
And the self-esteem one was the one that stood out for me. So I started going down that path more when the NHS project finished. But we used to go into schools doing workshops.
That's amazing, because that as you're doing each task, you're discovering who you are, and what really makes you happy and what motivates you. Because I get that. Like even when I apply for a job, my director said to me, for example, he said to me, so where do you see yourself? I said, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm forever evolving and I'm forever trying to find my feet. I never thought I'd be in this job. I never thought I'd be going through these stages and these processes in like the last few years. But I'm learning myself, and I can't tell you, oh, my commitment in this particular role will be that I'm going to work for the land team or development or whatever, because I might work in a different area or one project and realize actually this is what I love more. Right. And then I take a next turn, and he appreciated my honesty. But I think initially he was like, yes, I think he anticipated. I'd be like, yeah, this is where I want to be, and this is my passion. I'm like, I love what I'm doing, but I might find more love somewhere else in a different department. And he's like, cool, that's fine. I hear that. So I slid in your DMs a few months ago. And I messaged you and I was like, yo, I think I'm marrying your cousin. And it was so wild. I was having this conversation with Ansu, and I was like, he said, oh yeah, my cousin Alim. And I said, okay, cool. Then he mentioned your name again. I said, oh, does he do storytelling? Is he like a motivational? He's like, yeah. I'm like, does he do? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, hold up, is this him? And he's like, yeah, how do you know him? I'm like, bro, I've been following this guy.
That's crazy.
So then I messaged you, and when you went low, I was like, uh-oh. You're even going to be like, low, he's not the one you want to be with, Hebs.
Oh, no.
Initially, I was like, uh-oh, there's a lows.
Yeah. It was just funny for me that it was just because me and him had the conversation before he was going to meet you. And so it's just like from having a conversation, walking down the road with him, and then being like, yeah, we're getting married. And I'm like, whoi. And then it's like, you then messaged me. I was like, this is mad.
Yeah, small world.
The world is small.
Very much so. And I think I loved your reaction. It just gave me some assurance. Like you were like, oh, so you're the woman that's captured my cousin's heart. And I'm just like, oh, I think something like you said something, you complimented who he was. I'm like, this is amazing. Yeah. Because it just reaffirms how because you know, people always say like you could be like lovers blind. You could just sort of putting your own blinkers on because you don't want to see. And for you to come and say that, you could have just stayed quiet. You could have been like, oh, wish you luck. Thumbs up.
Bro, love him. Love him. Nice, his character, his gentleness, his kindness. He's
a real one.
Yeah, no, he is.
And he is. It was actually quite cool, like having to message you, and I'm just like, it's just so interesting. I'm actually messaging you, telling you, by the way, I'm marrying your cousin. And it's just like, I never thought this day would come. The
other beautiful part is that when I'm watching your podcast, and you're like, my husband, and I was just like, yeah. My husband, guys. I watch your nails, but my husband, guys. Yeah, that is cool. It's a beautiful thing. I think, without digressing into me, but from having the first experience that wasn't so great, my first marriage, then having someone who's honestly like an incredible human being, an incredible soul, like it's something I cannot take for granted. And even to the point, like I wanted to keep it all to myself. Like people were like, well, you got married, what, when? And I'm just like, because I'm just so humble and grateful. And you ain't even met the family, like the extended cousins.
Not yet.
Oh my, we have a village.
That's cool, I'm ready.
We have a village, and you're gonna love him.
I met quite a few aunties on his birthday, and I was just like, everyone's so nice. Initially, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be daunting. Like, over time, you'll do, and it will just grow. You'll be like, how many cousins do you have? But you know what? That's like us though, back home as well. Okay. It's just part of, like, I guess in our case, it's a North African culture. So it's all like a million cousins and a bunch of aunties that aren't really aunties, but we call them auntie anyway. That's
it, out of the respect.
That's it. So you just done a private viewing screening of the new Wakanda Forever. Yeah. How was that?
It was good, man. So I performed, I opened up. Before the screening, done the storytelling, and I had to kind of get out of my head. And there's a story that I came across recently which speaks about hyena being hungry and then deciding, you know what, he comes to a path and one goes left and one goes right, and hyena's like, you know what, I'm going to take my left foot and go to the left and take my right foot and go to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, until he splits.
Yeah.
And so that story made me be like, no. Don't think too much. Just go on and do what you do. Because I was thinking, yeah, but what if people want to more focus on the movie rather than me doing a performance? And I was like, that there is not going to help your performance.
No.
So I cut that and I went and did my thing.
Sick.
And then the movie finished. As it was finishing, it was almost like it was an emotional touch. And I was like, you want me to go on after this? And I was like, don't do it again. So I
So you did before and after?
Before and after.
But that's good though, because you set the tone. And I'm sure it's just part of the experience.
Yes,
like people look forward to having a full-on experience. So, you know, this film is a big movie for a lot of people. Obviously, it's hard to kind of come after the first one.
Yeah.
Although Aladdin will say otherwise. And then now, after everyone's feelings are heightened based on the movie, then for you to come through and hit them with some more real talk,
hit them more. And
that's beautiful.
Interestingly enough, the story that I did at the end was supposed to be at the beginning, but it just fit in perfectly to round up the message that was being conveyed in the movie.
That's sick. Yeah. Well done.
Thank you.
Does it feel good?
It feels good, man.
For kids.
Especially after doing the schools and then the big people, the adults.
Yeah.
It's good.
Do you think you're ready for more adults?
Yeah, I am, you know.
That's good.
So my two things was the younger ones, the nursery school children. There's always like who, but now that and the adults. And this Black History Month, I've actually been doing more corporate work as well.
Sick.
Which has been amazing, doing Black history combined with African storytelling.
Amazing.
Yeah,
that's good, man. I see you spreading. That's amazing. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
So we always start the segment with a favorite quote. Do you remember your favorite quote?
Of course.
Listen, people always need me to prompt them. They're like, we got a million quotes in our heads. Would you like to share your favorite quote, please?
My favorite quote is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Would you like to explain why?
It allows you to be able to look at things from a different angle.
Okay.
And a lot of the times we look at things from one angle and we think, yep, that's right, I'm in the right, this is how it is. Whereas if you stand from the side and look at it from a different position or different standpoint or another person's point of view, you all of a sudden get a second or third thought to say, this is where I was emotionally, and so this is where my thought was directed at that moment in time. But actually, if I think of it in terms of maybe somebody else's perspective, it can help to expand the understanding
100%.
of what it is I want to get down to. So change the way you look at things.
Yeah, perspective is everything, because you're limiting yourself, because we're just regular dons, and sometimes we need to look from someone's perspective, and sometimes our lens isn't the best lens to look through based on our own assumptions and our own experiences. How has that applied to you, I guess, sort of evolving from the young man you were to the man you are today? Like, how has perspective changed, and has there been anything particular that you can sort of talk about?
What do you mean?
Like, how has perspective, so you're saying in order to view things differently, you've got to change the way you view things, or however you worded it.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular where you've had to start viewing things differently in order for you to understand things differently?
Yeah, so being that we're on the Up British podcast, growing up in an area or school, for example, that wasn't necessarily predominantly white, it was very mixed, to then start going out of London and facing more white Caucasian crowds, and then feeling awkward and being like, what's that? I've done this loads of times. Why do I feel something? And realizing that based on the images, the stories that we were growing up with as children, there's something sitting in the subconscious mind that we're unaware of.
The discomfort.
No, not so much. Well, the idea of say for example, I tell people like the image of Tarzan. When I was growing up, Tarzan was hero. I love Tarzan. Like, woo! Tarzan, the bad man, he can swing from the tree that he grab Jane and whoop. And then growing up and realize, hold on a second here, and it was Muhammad Ali I was listening to. He's like, yo, hold on a second, there's this white man who's in the jungles, supposed jungles of Africa, and he's the one who's the king of the jungle, and he's swinging in his dirty nappy, and he can talk to the animals. But the people who've been there for thousands of years can't do it.
Yeah.
And then you realize like, and then you come across more and more images and more stories that make you feel sometimes as a young child inadequate or not good enough or not worthy in society.
Of course.
You go into school, you get taught about just slavery.
Yeah.
And my cousin said something to me the other day, and she was like, do you ever start a book in the middle page, in the middle?
Okay.
You don't start a book in the middle.
Yeah.
So why aren't we going back to the beginning or as far back as we can so we can look at when Africans were building, when they were scientists, when they were doing agriculture, when they were doing mathematics, and all of a sudden that begins to shift. So the more I'm learning about me, my identity, my history, it's like, I'm inspired. And it changed my perspective of how I view myself. And so therefore when I walk out and I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm just doing me as Alim Kamara, because I've strengthened the roots, strengthened the identity of where I come from and where I want to go.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I like to take things back a bit. So growing up, you're originally from Sierra Leone?
Yeah, I was born in the UK.
Born in the UK?
Went back to live back home in Sierra Leone.
Okay, hold up.
Yeah.
So what's your setup at home? How many are you at home? Like Three.
Yeah,
Mum, dad, and 3?
Oh no, in terms of I thought you meant like brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So there's 3 of us. I'm the oldest, and I got a sister and a brother.
Wicked. And were you raised a mum and dad?
No, so I was raised by mum, and then mum sent me back home to live with my uncle and aunt. About 2.
Until
about 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that just her way of because I've heard this before, so you kind of get sent back home for either 2 reasons, because you're misbehaving and the threat actually becomes like it materializes into reality, and you're in you're in the airport with your passport and you're gone, and then there's the mum's trying to find her feet.
That's exactly what it is.
And you're
mum's trying to find my feet. Till this, I call my mum auntie.
Man.
Yeah, I call my mum auntie. When I was young, I knew she was my mum. But then when I was living with my cousins, they're calling their mum and dad mama, papa. So I grew up calling my uncle papa, my auntie mama. Even though I knew mum was mum.
Yeah. How do you think that affected her, calling her auntie?
No, she was cool because she was cool with it. Like, everybody calls her auntie, so I think it just naturally flowed that way. And then my brother, the last one, he calls my mum. So that's always interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the youngest calls her mum.
Yeah.
And you have a sister as well, you said?
Yeah, I have a sister.
And she calls her auntie?
She calls her auntie, yeah.
SubhanAllah. So is that...
sometimes like I'll switch it up, and when I'm out, I'll be like, hey, mum, but in terms of growing up, I call my mum auntie.
So even though you came back so young, you still, the adjustment wasn't made?
Yeah, it wasn't made. No.
That's mad.
It just became almost like, but the auntie became almost a title in place of mama.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how was it being raised with just mum? Obviously once you came back.
Once I came back. So if I could I jump?
Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up, so my uncle one day was at home and my dad turned up.
Okay.
And obviously my uncle's big bro to mum, and I remember standing behind his leg, and then him telling my dad to go away. It was just hard. Like these times I'm probably like 5, 6.
So you're aware.
And I'm aware.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see what's going on.
Is this back home?
This is back home.
Okay.
Yeah. So my dad like shows up, you know. My uncle's like, you want to show up after all this time? And then that was the one time I saw my dad.
I swear.
Yeah, that was the one time I saw my dad. And I remember going on the banister and seeing him walk. Like, yeah, this kind of...
Do you recall how he looks like?
No, but I'm a spitting image of him.
Swear.
Yeah.
That's what everyone tells you.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I hadn't... We're going to kind of jump back and forth.
I'm here for it, man. We can freestyle.
About a year ago, I was back home.
Okay.
And I decided I need to go to my dad's village. I hadn't been.
Okay.
Or I shouldn't say village, town. And so I went, and my uncle took me, and my uncle is related on both sides of the family.
Okay.
And so he goes up to my auntie, my dad's sister, and she's like, "Oh, what do you want?" And then he's like, "I've bought your child." And she turns around, looks at me,
Whole grown man.
calls my dad's name.
Subhanallah, like literally.
Yeah, so she hadn't seen me since I was a baby.
Yeah,
But she looked at my face and just saw my dad. She just burst out crying. That was emotional.
That's hard.
That was emotional.
Because obviously she's got love and she's probably like...
Yeah, well, my dad passed when I was 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's still... Yeah,
that's hard because then she literally sees her brother.
Yeah.
That's emotional on levels.
If that kept on happening when I then went to the rest of the brothers and sisters, and they were just like, all.
Do you feel like you were able to sort of, I guess, I mean, firstly, did you harbour any feelings towards your pops?
Oh yeah, of course. I was vexed. I was vexed for time. I used to have fights in school. You know, people cuss your mum and cuss your dad
on sight already.
Yo, someone said something to me the other day. Now they don't say, what did they say? They say, you know, they used to say, swear in your mum's life.
Yeah.
Now they say mums.
Yeah.
Say dads.
Like, what is this nonsense?
Yeah. But yeah, I used to get in trouble all the time.
So you kind of acted out from your frustration?
Definitely.
So this is when you're back here in London?
This is when I'm back here in London.
So
I'm acting out and my mum is just like, what is wrong with you?
Was it just you that's acting out? Or was it your other siblings as well? So,
okay. So now we're going to jump back.
Yeah, let's go, man.
So when it was time to come over, my mum and my uncle decided that myself and my cousin, his son, were going to come over. And my sister stayed back home.
Okay.
So then what was supposed to happen is me and my cousin come over and then the girls come over later on. Yeah. And so I grew up with my cousin as my brother.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I find it really interesting because certain cultures, like, this is very normal, like the sort of mix and matching, and some kids don't hold any resentment towards their parents and they're just like, it's accepting it's part of a journey, and other kids really harbour feelings to like feeling neglected or like not good enough to you know, like to be included as part of the family. So did your sister end up coming back?
She ended up coming back, yeah.
How old was she when she came back?
She came back when she was about 14, 15.
How did she adjust? That's a massive culture shock.
Oh no, it was a lot for her. It was hard for her, because there was always that question of why was it not me that came back instead of my cousin. So yeah, that was definitely hard for her.
Okay, that's hard because obviously that means she has to go for her own journey. We're not going to go too much into her because that's for her to tell the story, I guess. Yeah. So jumping back to you going back home last year, did that help with your healing or like understanding your pops or feeling your dad's energy in any way?
Definitely, man. Like I went to where he was buried, and I was like, I don't know if you can hear me. And I just spoke, and I'd gotten to a place of forgiveness many years ago, but I was like, I need to have the conversation. And it was just, and then there was this kind of like this movie scene feeling where I started having the conversation, and towards the end of the conversation, the wind changed, and the wind got stronger. And I was like, that's you, shifted. Pops.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I had the moments, that's you, Pops, I feel you, I hear. And then, two of my aunties passed away. Like literally, like not long after. But I got to connect with them.
That's amazing.
Which is because it was like if I had, and when I went, it was a day before I was supposed to fly back. But I was just like, my feeling was just strong. It was just like, go, go, go. So when I went, and one of them I was in touch with, we used to speak regularly, and the other one was in the town. But we were building up a relationship.
This is from your dad's side?
Yeah,
okay.
My dad's sisters.
Yeah.
And so we were building that relationship that we didn't have all these years. And so them passing was a lot. And then I had to say, you know what, but I'm grateful I got to meet them.
And you met them at a point like where you were ready to have these conversations, and you're maybe a level of maturity where you can take in the information rather than resist it. Because I mean, I don't know about you, when I was younger, I was mad stubborn. Like, so you can talk to me what you want. I'm like, whatever. But when you get older, and especially like you said, there was a turning point of forgiveness with your pops. What was that, and when did it happen? Where you were like, do you know what? I forgive you regardless.
I say people who are hurting hurt people, and so me getting in trouble in school, and then I remember there was one time my mum came to the school and she picked me up after having a fight, and when we got home, from when she picked me up to when we got home, she didn't say a word to me.
That's stress.
That is just, I'm like, slap me, comfort me, do
give me
something, do something. She said nothing. She just went in her room and I heard her crying. And that hit, man. That was hard.
How old are you?
About 14, 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was hard.
Yeah.
You know, because you're still in that mindset of like, nah, but people are talking about my dad and they can't do that. It's not cool, you know. You get mad if they cuss your mum, but mum's here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But dad's not here.
It's hard.
And I never knew my dad, so I'm already angry that I never knew him. And now
it's a very sensitive topic.
And now you're hitting where it hurts, and so it had to get to a point where I was just like, nah. And then I think I started having, because by this time I'm writing how I'm writing lyrics.
From the age of 15?
Yeah.
That's
I'm writing lyrics in terms of how I'm feeling. Because my mum's saying to me, what's wrong with you? Why are you fighting?
Were you able to connect the dots to why you were actually like really frustrated and pent? Because sometimes we act up deflecting without realising why we're really deflecting.
I don't know. I don't think back then we had an awareness of emotional intelligence. Yeah. I personally, sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I just think you were just doing you as a young person.
Yeah.
And so when I started writing and seeing what was coming out of my pen and being like, okay, so this is what you want to convey, but you struggle to convey your messages on cue. So when you're asked what's wrong with you and I'm freezing and I don't reply, it's like the answers are not coming out. So my mum is just even more frustrated. Mum's just like, and you don't want to talk. Now before you're fighting, now you don't want to say anything. So I'm just like, and so writing lyrics, and that came from seeing, hip hop artists use words as a way to get out their frustration, what was happening in society, and even share personal. So even I saw on the podcast when you're talking about the brother, I can't remember his name, he's talking about he doesn't cry. Yeah. Jay, and so it was like writing was a way of crying. Writing was a way of expressing like the deeper, innermost, harshest feelings.
When did you recognize that was it? That was almost like your outlet and almost therapy, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just something that was just happening. It started from learning rappers' lyrics and then being like, oh, let me try and write my own.
Yeah.
And I had a little book. It was a burgundy book that I used to just write in and just hide.
So you weren't really like wanting to tell anyone what you're doing?
No.
Who influenced you as a rapper? Like,
Tupac.
Okay.
KRS-One. Nas. Jay-Z. Lauryn Hill.
Lauryn Hill was incredible.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Obviously for everything that you went through and
sorry, Talib Kweli and Common as well.
Hey.
Just had to throw that in there.
I think Talib Kweli came out when Most Stuff came out when Dave Chappelle performed last.
Yeah.
No, the one before, and then Talib Kweli came out the last time he performed as well. And I was just like, oh my god, I literally loved them growing up. Yeah. They're just like conscious rappers. Yeah. They're spitting the truth.
Yeah. I was breaking down to the children. I was like, what does rap stand for? And saying to them, explain to them that rap is rhythm and poetry. And so when you take the music away, what you're left with the words, which essentially are poems.
Yeah.
But getting them to connect hip hop with poetry as opposed to just Shakespeare, for example.
Yeah, because we have a stereotype, I guess, growing up based on what we're taught in schools. It's like, it's not necessarily cool. And I think as you evolve, you can maybe own the title a bit better. But a rapper sounds, I guess, cooler. Yeah. It's like, yeah, man's a rapper. What are you talking about? I ain't no poet. And as you get older, it's like, yes, spoken words.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So with the journey that you've had, obviously it's Male Mental Health Month, hopefully like awareness as well. So November. How, like, so I guess growing up, did you sort of struggle a bit, like mentally, in regards to getting your head around like who you are, your identity? Because obviously, like, you were raised in two different cultures. You had the mum and the auntie titles. You had pops who you didn't know whether you wanted to know or jab in the throat. It's just those like mixed emotions. Mentally, like, how did you cope? Is or was literally writing your main outcome outlet?
I went to an event once, and this brother got up and had a comment, and he said something about having an issue with the term "man up."
Yeah.
And I was like, what's wrong with that? Like, then I was like, what's wrong with that? Like, I mean, and because we were raised harsh, that's the language we know.
100.
With our boys and our brothers, and, you know, it's like, man up. It's a language that is like, bro, fix up, man. What's wrong with you?
Yep.
And certain times you need that. And then when I heard the brother say, man up was an issue, I was like, I had to stop and think. And I was like, oh, but depending on where you are, if you have a particular image of what that looks like when they say man up, it could come across as toxic. Whereas for us, it was like, sometimes you just need that. Bruv, get up, do what you need to do right now. So that's
that's how you perceive man up.
Yeah.
So so for me, I get that there comes a point where a man, unfortunately, needs to affirm it more than a woman, for example, because
right.
you know, a woman tends to be, obviously not all applies, more emotional and more emotionally led, whereas a man can sometimes hold it in for a little bit, stay composed and keep it stepping for the sake of showing face and for the sake of like bravery, and it's not easily done. But at the same time, like, part of growing up British is like you've inherited cultural values, and growing up in my household, mental health full stop wasn't a conversation. It wasn't even identified. It was like, get up and pray, or like, men don't cry, men don't show anything. And you can say you took it on as like a, you know, it's part of a culture. It's not an endearment, but it's not anything too negative. But then when you think about in the men in our families, or I can speak about my families or people I know, the men were very like angry and frustrated and short with their children, not present at home because, you know, they're just constantly going. So it's just like, man up is cool to an extent,
it's
but
balance.
Then it's like, how do you change the narrative for yourself? You have to, because you have to now unlearn. And it's not easy to unlearn behavior. So do you still stand by the man up sort of like it being still okay to be said, or do you feel like subject to terms and conditions?
I think, subject to terms and conditions. I think it depends on your circle. If you have, like I was saying, we didn't have emotional intelligence growing up. If you now have that emotional intelligence, you're aware, it becomes, like I said, a narrative or phrase that speaks to you. Because to some extent, by default, that was the language that we grew up with. And so by default, if it works for you in a beneficial way, then why not use it as an access point to get what you need to get done? But don't let it be something that hardens you to the point where you're not able to soften or have a different outlook of what, or the different ways that man can be, if that makes sense. So whether it's with your partner, whether it's with the children, or even just with your friends, are you able to be something different other than this fixed image
of what an expectation of a man is.
And so man up doesn't necessarily have to be a fixed image. And I think if you develop a particular relationship with your friends, you're able to communicate that in an effective way.
No, exactly. But unfortunately, obviously, like, not everyone has the opportunity to reflect and sort of dissect, you know, what does this mean? How does it apply to me? And how can I change that narrative and how I use that word? So you mentioned, obviously, friends. How, like, do you have that bromance?
Oh, yeah.
How does that look like?
So my bro, Jackson, one day hits me up, my birthday. my dad passed on my birthday. And so I didn't celebrate my birthday for years. Like, I was just like, nah. On the day before, day after, I call. And then Jackson hit me up and he was like, bruv, come on, man, what would your dad want you to do? Would you want you to be sitting down and, do you know what I mean, mourning and being upset and, you know, or would you want you celebrating life? And I was like, real talk. And that was when we went to see Avengers 1.
Okay.
A group of friends of us got together and we went, had a good time. And since then, I'm like, yeah, celebrate life.
That's good, because I feel like I touched on this last episode, but I touched on how like women socially are okay to just openly express emotion, talk about their problems, and it's like it's promoted on social media, it's promoted in stories and you know, movies, the narrative, songs, you know, the women's express, men don't. And I think it's extremely beautiful when I see men who are able to keep it real with each other. And like, first it's accountability, then it's the safe space. And like, how do you use your voice? I guess because you're in, obviously with power, you have responsibilities. So how do you use your position to sort of help with, like, or do you around male mental health or expression and communication?
The other day, my boy came to see me perform. He hadn't, you know, when someone's known you for years and they know what you do, they've even helped you on your journey, but hadn't sat down and seen me do storytelling. And we had a conversation after. He's like, yeah, bro, that storytelling thing was all right. And he's like, man, felt like it was therapy. You know what I mean? So I guess sitting down with the boys, when you've been through situation, whether it's fights, whether it's the passing or losing of, you know, a close one, it's like, who was around, who was there with you? I think you build something. I remember once my brother getting attacked, and I called my boy, and I'm on the phone, and I can't get the words out because I'm trying to fight and hold back tears. But he's like, yo, brother, you okay? You all right? Like, and I'm like, but I knew that I could call him.
Yeah, you got as far as calling.
Yeah. No, but I knew that I could reach out. Do you know what I mean? If I want to pour out, I know who I can. I have a set of people that I can do that with. So which is a huge blessing. But so for me, it's a case of, if you've got that, look after it, man. It's really something.
Right?
And
push
you know,
the narrative around that as well.
They'll still them, don't get twisted, whether it's school or, they'll still punch you up though. You don't get twisted, like, you know what I mean? Like, we have that moment.
Balance.
And there's a balance. A man will still check you if you need to be checked. But that's when it moves from, I guess, friendship to brotherhood.
Because literally, as siblings, you get best of both worlds. Like, I'm a snitch on you, I'm a rough you up, but I'm gonna be there for you regardless.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's cool. So how was your relationship with your siblings growing up?
So how was my sister? It was tough for my sister to adjust, because when she came over, she faced what we faced when we were younger, which is like, it's hard. Like, children in school, whenever I'm doing, whether it's a performance at all, I'm like, look after each other, be mindful of the words because when we grew up, the words were harsh.
And they're powerful.
And so for my sister, it was tough.
What was the biggest issue she faced? Like, when you think of toughness, what's the first thing that sort of
fitting in?
Okay.
Fitting in for her was hard, because you're adjusting. You're coming from back home. You're coming to this world where everything is about image.
Did you go to the same school?
Yeah, she went to my school. Like, when I was like leaving school, that's when she was joining the school. Oh, so you
guys missed each other?
Yeah.
So you weren't even there ready to be like.
No, I think it's last year.
Okay.
So when I was leaving, so yeah. But obviously then she has her set of friends and group, and then I'm probably trying to look cool with my friends. So it's we're in different circles.
Don't chat to me. I don't know you to get home, man. Why are you looking at me for?
So that I knew for her was a tough one. But at home it was cool. And then my little brother came along, and you know, the last one's always the spoilt one. But like
They are
watching,
literally spoiled.
watching him grow up has been a journey. It's been amazing because he now plays football with my boys.
Nice.
Do you know what I mean? So those are his brothers too.
That's nice.
And then seeing how having them around and how he certain times have conversations with them that he hasn't had with me, which I'm like, at one point I'm like, I'm your bro. And then another point I'm like, I'm happy that you've got
that's it.
bros that you can also go and share.
By default, we take it personal. It's just like, wait, am I not good enough?
Of course,
I'm not.
yes, of course.
But sometimes it is easier to sort of reach out. It's almost like maybe like writing people who, like, for example, the work that you do on your creative point of view, like, it's probably easier to write it down and actually say it to strangers than it is to like sit down and unpack it on a very personal level.
Yeah, like I was tough on my little bro.
For what reason?
Because I had this expectation that because of what I did, I went out and inspired people. He should automatically know better.
I get that.
Forgive my ignorance.
You can be ignorant for a little bit. You can be ignorant.
Yeah, no, and it's owning up and fessing to it and being like, man, it's amazing how we think. It's just like, no, automatically you are supposed to know and do better because of what I'm doing. It's like,
so I was literally like on the podcast, BCS, and shout out to Aladdin who's in the studio, and we spoke about I spoke about how people, when they find their calling, whether it's faith or whatever it is, they expect people to just jump on the journey. It's just like, fam, I've got this discovery. It's incredible. Are you alright? Why are you not jumping on the hype? Do it right now. It's just like you went through your journey of discovering yourself. And naturally, whatever that journey is for him, it's just being able to unpack it, and then maybe he'll reach a point and go, do you know what? I mess with this. I want to do that, but he might be doing it for a different way.
He did. He actually did.
That's it.
Which is beautiful because it's seeing the man and he ended up graduating as an actor as well.
Amazing.
Yeah. So Ansu is like actually advising him,
that's
like
nice.
what to, do you know what I mean? What to, just like the path to take and things like that, and what to do. So yeah.
So you're proud of him?
I'm proud of him, definitely. Like that was the time when I was walking near my house and I saw him kind of hanging around on the street. What you doing, bruv? No. You ain't no road man. Like, he goes, get off the road. You know, so to see him where he is now, his level of maturity, his thinking, I'm super proud of him.
No, that's it. Yeah. That's incredible. It's a journey.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately where you end up, because we have to go through bumps and, you know, when we think we're doing good, we take a step back and then eventually we find our feet. And that's incredible. And
my sister, she's got twins.
Wow, you got twins in the family.
We got twins in the family.
Genetics.
Twins in the family. So yeah.
So growing up British, talks about being third culture kids and kind of finding your identity in the world, because like, I'm from Sudan and Egypt and I'm born and raised here. I'm proud to be British, but I'm also very proud to be North African. Yeah. And when I go back home, they're like, you're not really from here, you're a foreigner. And do you know when you walk in with your chest, like with flag on, everything, like, not literally, but like you're really repping and you're so excited to come back home, and they just pick you up and they go, no. Or they want to try and finesse you with some kicks or something because they know they think you're rich. Yes, because you're from London. It's just like, nah, B, like, you're richer than me on levels, not just like financially, every life,
emotionally.
Then you're in London and you're proud to be a Londoner, and then there's these constant reminders, whether they're subtle, I feel like racism, and like whether it's some sort of discrimination, whether it's Islamophobia, however it is, it looks very different than the US. I think the US are very blunt and very outright about it, and the UK are a bit more like, I don't really like you, but I'm gonna say it with a smile, and it's not gonna be very direct at times. Yeah, but it's still, you pick up on it, you can't ignore it, and it's like a discomforting feeling of like, but I'm proud of where I'm from. So how have you, like, what has like being a third culture kid been like for you? Obviously being in both places at some point.
I'm so glad Mum sent me back home.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm so glad, because it gave me a sense of, that's where the spoken word storytelling was birthed from. Because like, you know, being around grandfather and my uncles, they would tell stories around campfires.
That's nice.
And then there was the culture that I got to see as well. So half my family is Muslim, half is Christian.
Okay.
And so there's that mix. When we have a gathering, it's like we'll have the Muslim prayer and then the Christian prayer.
Interesting.
So when you come over here, it's like everybody over there, everybody hold your corner. And in fact, you know what I mean, like it's beef if we meet. And so that was a culture shock. Back home, we were skipping, we were doing cartwheel, boys and girls running down the road, even like young boys would walk hand in hand. You come over here, if you do that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. We had that in Egypt. It's the same thing.
Right.
Everyone's like, "What's going on here?" I'm like, "No, it's normal. It's normal. It's just this is friendship."
Yeah.
No,
You
literally.
know, so then you come here, and there's that you have to then switch and change who you are. And like you said, by the time you go back home, they're like, "No, you don't belong here." And when you're here, certain times you're made to feel like you don't belong here, and then people wonder why the younger generation have formed their own culture.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, well, you forced us and you squeezed us into this place where it's like, you don't quite fit in here, you don't quite fit in there. So then it was like, you're in the middle here. So now you're like, okay, well, we're going to establish our own.
100%.
And that's where the music, the art, the rebels started building, and people are like shocked, almost like, why are you behaving like this? You're supposed to, it's like, we had to. We had to form, we had to learn our own way of how we do things. We had to shift out of some of your thinking, because we've realized now we're learning to be better, to do better in a society. But yeah, growing up, and even for example, like going into schools and the work that I do, is a lot of it is based around culture.
Yeah.
So the teachers who are up country, they're like, thank you for, first of all, being a black presence in children's lives, being a positive black presence in children's lives, and shifting the narrative.
100%.
Which is like, when you hear, so I'm wearing a long African attire, and then it's like, why are you wearing a dress?
It's like, nah, boo.
And then so then and it's like, and then you're talking about, well, you see when people hear hijabs, oh yeah, like when the women wear the towels on their head. Wait, what did you just say? So then it's like,
don't worry.
yeah. So then it's like, look at this image.
Yeah.
You show the 1900s. Your grandma just used to wrap her head. So then it's you're also teaching from a point where you're getting them to see, like, oh, there's another angle. But for us growing up, it was like, we didn't necessarily have anybody focusing on our identity or who we are.
No, we just literally freestyled and had to find our feet. And whoever we came along, we connected, like, oh, you're different too. All right, see. And it's just like when you go into employment and you see another person that looks like you, nod you give them, or like that sort of like, I feel safe now. We recognize each other.
Yes,
it's mad, but it happens to this very day.
It does.
It's just like, I see you. I see you too.
Like certain times when we were young as well, the teams were football teams.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you were Arsenal, if you were Liverpool, if you were Tottenham, if you were Chelsea, those were the crews. And then it was like, if one team's wasn't that great, all right, you join up with the team and you build up a number. That was, do you know what I mean, what we grew up in school.
That's how it looks.
Yeah, so this is, it's interesting.
No, that's cool. So obviously, like, I speak very openly about the fact that, you know, the concept of the Grown Up British is to celebrate our differences and actually the culture that we have created. And I think some people resist it because they don't want to sort of group themselves, like, you know, like the BAME title. People are like, no, I don't want to use the word BAME. And I get it because obviously every single culture and ethnicity has a different experiences in life, different hardships, different privileges. Everything comes, but you know, but at the same time, from a perspective how I see it at times, it's like, actually, I'm glad that as minorities we can connect on something, and I don't think we should see it as a negative overall. I think it's a lazy term to use to describe maybe all minorities, as if like let's just group everyone together and just put them together. I get why people are frustrated by it, but I see the beauty and the celebration behind it, of like, we're all a bit different. We all have our different like cultural struggles. We have our own identity struggles. They might not be the same as each other. They might not mirror 100%, but we can both relate to something that's very deep to us, whether it's how we were raised, the foundations we were raised in, the stereotypes we've experienced and whatever. And I think for me, it's like, instead of holding to the negative stigma of being a minority, let's just celebrate the fact that we're ethnic minorities and we are third culture kids who are a bit lost in this world, who are still trying to find our feet, but collectively we've created our own language. And you know, you see different cultures picking up different lingos of each other, and as like, for example, Londoners, like there's a guy that I don't remember his name, he takes the mick out of different like West London, South London, East London guy, and he's hilarious because he just uses stereotypes, but effectively we're all the same and we all resonate with each other in some way. And I celebrate that, because you can even be a white guy that's been raised in the ends, and you've been inherited, you've been adopted by the community as one of us, as opposed to just saying, well, you know, if you're not black, you're not Asian, you're not Arab, you don't fit in, or you know, the black people have to be together in one place. And I get there's always going to be conflicts, but I think for me, I just want to continuously celebrate our differences rather than see it as, you know, we're different, we're not the same, how dare they group us. It's just like, I get it, there'll always be technical areas that we shouldn't be grouped in together, but then there's also a lot of it where we can find comfort within each other and friendships within each other, and also like therapy within each other, because you know, what did discipline look like at home, what did mental health look like at home, what did parenting look at home, what were the stereotypes of divorce look like at home, and a lot of the times were very similar despite being different. So to me, that's it's such a big deal. And faith as well, and the conflict between faith and culture. So for you growing up, how, and as an adult today, how much has faith been an impact on you, and how did it shape you as an adult?
Just before I answer that question, so now there are people who are not fighting, but looking to change it to world majority instead of ethnic minority.
Ooh, powerful. I like that.
Yeah, world majority.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Instead of ethnic
minority.
World. Yeah.
That can run still.
That can run.
Take over the world.
But just that shifts thought. It shifts even you, because even when I said you were like, like you felt it. Yeah.
It's gone from like minorities to like actually hold up.
Yeah.
It's like
so
back to faith. How much has it played a role in who you are, and how has it kind of impacted you as a child to an adult?
Mum sending us to madrasa Saturday was not cool. It was Saturday. We wanted to go and play football, and then we were sent to a school where it was cold tuna sandwiches and water.
Say alhamdulillah.
But this is the thought as a child.
Yeah, of
course. So as a child. So then it's like you're there. It's just me, my two cousins who are the black children there. So we feel out of place as well, you know.
Was it predominantly Asian?
Yeah. So we feel out of place. And when I grew up, I said to my mum, I said, when you sent us to madrasa, you never told us why we were going. You just told us to go as a parent. You just had to. Yeah. And so it's something interesting about giving somebody a reason why they should go there.
100%.
And then I had an uncle who is an imam, and he just always used to be lecturing. So, uncle, not today, man. Like, come on. This you know what I mean? Like, But I'm so thankful he stayed on my case.
Good.
Because I didn't, at the time, it felt like nagging. And so even I say to parents, I'm like, if it feels like nagging, just keep on reinforcing the message as long as it's positive. And so him kind of continuously like sharing little things, little hints about, he'd be like, it's not assalamu alaikum, it's assalamu alaikum. And I'm like, okay, is it that deep, uncle? But it's like those little, but those little things there. And then when I went back home after the war in Sierra Leone, my auntie, would go to the masjid, and then I'd be like, oh, let me come with you. But as I was going with her as security, almost kind of, let me just look after you. And that's when I started praying.
So.
Do you know what I mean? Because of my aunties, like going with her and falling in love with the faith, falling in love with Islam in a different way, which is like, whoa.
That's nice.
But as young, you're in UK. It's like you want to fit in.
Listen.
Not everybody around you is praying. Whereas back home, back home, as soon as it's time to pray, everybody's going in the same direction.
100%.
Stop what you're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Listen,
So
I'll tell you my stubbornness here. Hear this.
talk to me.
Story time. So, my dad and my mum will send me out to pray. Like, yeah, prayers. I'm like, cool, safe. Trust me, yeah, my stubborn ass.
Yeah.
I will sit on the bed and bang my feet on the floor so they think my head's on the floor. I'm sitting there watching TV. I will not pray because I am so stubborn, like an idiot. Do you know when it just like you're doing illogical things, but you're hard headed?
Yeah.
Tell me to pray, I beg you.
But it was the
cool.
why.
Yeah.
It was the why wasn't explained to us. So we're
when
just like. Yeah.
I got to a point where I was like, Mama, explain to me why. And I got to this point where maybe like around 15, 16, where everyone started drinking and stuff. And I was just like, why can't we drink? Because it always keeps haram.
Right,
Tell me why.
Right, yeah,
the minute I understood why, I had no desire to drink.
The power of
and
why.
It's just like, for me, with my son, I'm changing that narrative. We're talking all the time.
Okay.
Do you know why I'm upset with you? Do you know why this is this? Do you know why I want you, like, I'd like you to do this? And it's like, we have these, because then he can relay that information back to me, and eventually it's second nature.
Yeah.
Whereas to my parents, it was just like, you just do it. And it's just because they didn't have the explanation, and therefore we've inherited this recycled narrative.
Right.
And then we come along with all this empowerment of being in a positive position of exposure, where we can actually go, wait, hold up, let's just question these things. And they brought us into this country, opened our minds, and then we're like, no, why are you thinking and asking these questions for? It's like, bro, that's what happens when you bring us in this environment. We now want to understand why we're different than other people. Right. We want to understand why why we're worshipping in different ways. So I think explanations are so important.
Very.
So you've grown closer and closer to your faith as you've gotten older.
Definitely.
Cool.
It's like the discipline that it brings in terms of attempting to pray 5 times a day in a culture which that is not a regular thing. It's not easy. But if you're able to begin to lock it down, you start to find you're calmer. You start to find you're more organized. You're more punctual. There's something about after you've prayed, there's a calmness that is almost like, bro, what on?
But that's it. Like when you understand the power of a prayer, like it's not like prayers are for you. It's an opportunity for you to disconnect. It's an opportunity for you to like stop what you're doing. If you're feeling frustrated, feeling angry, feeling anxious, you're feeling like, I don't know, about to do something stupid. It's just like, hold on, let me pray first.
Yes.
And then you get a chance to repent. You get a chance to, again, like, get closer to God. And then, like, my friend will always say to me, he goes, let me pray Isha first. And then I'll see if I'm going out for my motive.
Ooh.
And then he'll pray and he'll be like, do you know what? Nah, I'm cool. I won't do it. Because by that point, he's like, I've had my meeting with God. I'm going to go out now and start drinking. Now I'm good.
And even now, what's interesting is what science is now discovering. Like later and later. And then people, it's like, you should meditate.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
we've done been doing this
already. You should be clean. You have to wash
water.
before you. Before you pray, you have to wash. So there are things that science is now discovering.
So many things.
There's like, after you eat, you should rinse your mouth. We've been doing that 5 times a day. So to be able to be like, you have a faith which is ahead of science. But it's also scientific.
Nice.
But when I say ahead of science, in terms of the things being discovered
at
now,
a later stage.
even in terms of when you pray Fajr, and then you look at people who are successful, and you look at the times they get up. The times they get up just so happens to be around the time when Fajr is happening. Do you know what I mean?
So guys, in order to be successful, Wake up, Fudge.
Yes. No,
Get your praise up.
seriously. And then you could either write something, you could whether it's playing an instrument, you could do something creative in that moment in time.
They say like the first 20 minutes to half an hour of your day, how you utilize it will determine the rest of your day. So if you just fling on music and or whether it's crowd or whatever it is you're listening to, and it's non beneficial for you,
What?
it somehow sets
The tone.
Yeah. So I sometimes listen to like motivational speeches in the morning. I just go on YouTube and I'm like, yes, I am strong. Yes, I can do this. I'm ready to soldier through my day. Until someone says something, I'm like, okay, maybe not. I don't know. Okay, so Alim, we have the hip hop rapper side.
A rapper. That's the original foundation, you know.
Yeah, no, that's sick. And it's good that you've managed to navigate through life. Like you went from the music side, you know, where you're kind of talking to yourself, to adults, and then finding your talent and how you can use that energy to target younger kids and planting the seeds from early. So even the stubborn kid that you had to move a chair from, you've planted something there, and it takes, and that's where you start in life anyway. So I can respect that, because I'm like that with my son. I'm like, you don't wait till they're older and then you start talking to them. You start now, because you're normalizing certain behaviors from now.
Very true.
So back to the rapper. I was going through your stuff, just praying and praying some more.
Right.
And I saw that obviously mum took you to madrasa, and something that's you were grateful for, as you said. And I also got this from your bars, just so record. Yeah, I'm a fan. But there's a track, and I'm just gonna go through certain lines, and I just sort of want to break them down a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the lines you said was, "We weren't bad, we were just in bad conditions." Talk to me.
So back home, you have the ones who deliver the discipline.
Okay.
And certain family members were the ones who would deliver the discipline, and it was harsh discipline. And so I felt so kind of, if you let me see how I do this. So it's almost like how do I do this? I told the children I used to struggle to spell together, right? And then one day my teacher told me, well, why don't you just spell to get her? It's just a basic example. And in that moment, I realized I learned differently to other children. Now, if you're sitting in a classroom and you're not doing things the way everybody else is doing them, so what would happen was, when it came to studying, I struggled. So what I started to do was cram everything. Okay. So it didn't matter. It was just, what is 9 times 1? Cram it. What is 9 times 2? Cram it. So it didn't matter about the patterns. It didn't matter that it was 9 and then 18 and then 27. 30. It didn't matter. It was like, picture it, cram Literally. It, like learn it. Yeah. Because that was my survival method. When I came over back and I was in school, when it came to doing plays, I wouldn't know lines like this. Because
that's how your brain processes.
Because I was like, this is my way of not getting licks. If I cram and I remember this and form some sort of image in my head of the pattern, then I'll make it through.
What did discipline look like? Because you mentioned it was harsh.
Cane.
Damn. Who was the main discipline person? Who disciplined you the most?
Too much info. No, yeah.
That's fine.
Too much. But it wasn't easy.
But was it something that you appreciate now as an adult? Or do you feel like do you feel like, to an extent, because like my dad grew up quite angry, and I'd get licks for the sake of it sometimes. I get licks just in advance, just in case, if my brother was done something wrong and we're sleeping, we're getting woken up, it's time. Whereas my younger sister never witnessed it. And to an extent, like, there's like different siblings held different energy towards it. I have no feelings towards my pops, I understood he didn't know how to communicate. He didn't know how to express. He didn't know how to channel his energy. And this is all he was sort of taught, and this is what he experienced as a child. And it just replayed, right? But I'm also grateful for it, because in a weird way, it's just shaped me into who I am. So I don't harbor any negative energy towards it. So that's why I'm asking that question. It's like, has it shaped you like in a sort of like frustrated way, or have you sort of been like, it's just part of my childhood and I embraced it?
It's a bit of both, but also I blocked out my childhood. You know, they say that if a young person has gone through a lot of things, they block it out as a survival. So I struggle to remember a lot of my childhood.
Okay.
And it's interesting because I have this cheesy line where I'm like, I started storytelling as a way to find my stories. Because
if that's real, it's real, man.
And to an extent it is, but that's my mask of covering what I'm actually saying. But it was something which it wasn't done on purpose. But then I was like, why am I struggling to remember certain things? There are clips. But you know when somebody would be like, yeah, when I was 5 years old, when I was 4 years old, and you're like, I don't have that. Because sometimes it was so painful that it was just like, shut it down. And so there was a lot that I shut down in order to be able to, get on with life.
Okay.
And so that's, that I don't know what that looks like. I might need to go and get hypnotized in order to unlock certain things, but maybe I just genuinely don't know. I don't remember, you know, and there's nothing I can.
No, I mean, I guess if it's something that you genuinely want to eventually unpack, it might be a lot to unpack. So it might be something that you'd have to do gradually.
I know what it is. It's like when I say I don't remember, it's a case of there's a pain. There's a harsh pain. And so because of that harsh pain, it's just like, right, next chapter.
Okay.
You know.
Let's just skip to it kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's where the whole going back to the whole man up thing comes in. Because it was a case of, this is what you were taught. You were taught, get up, get on with it. But then working with children has made me like it was, man.
Usually when you have a child, that's when it makes you gentle.
Yeah, usually, but me, for me,
fast-tracked.
Listen, it's just somebody, like I go into schools and children, I'm like, anybody got anything from today? You're like a big brother to us when you hear a little child say that. You know, things that I've got moments that have replaced those childhood or that are in place of situations, of faces, of incidents, or performing at a place, doing my music, and someone coming out and going, yo, I really needed to hear that message today, thank you. You know, just from the songs.
So basically people connecting to that, and you also creating that childhood for those kids yourself and impacting, and that's kind of part of the reward system / healing / gratitude. It's just all connected.
And they say those who have been broken become the greatest menders. Look at people who get into a lot of work where they're helping others. Trace their story. A lot of the times you tend to find and the reason why they can be good at it sometimes is because I know what that looks like if it goes bad. So I'm gonna do what I can to make it good for you, you know. So, and they say, you know, if there is something that is, there's something that irks you, something that makes you uncomfortable, it's a sign that you are part of the solution. Do you know what I mean? So
because it's hitting you in a certain manner. And I agree, and I feel like even in certain jobs, that if it doesn't hit you the way it should hit you, don't do that job anymore. Because you need to stay connected. Especially when you work like with children or vulnerable people. If you start taking that for granted and it's just a day on day out job, then you need to shift, because like you said, people start in this role for a reason, because they're connected with it, or they've experienced it, and they want to better that environment. Like I worked in different, like with I was a housing officer, so I managed like different kids in different cases and homes, and it's like, for me, I connected with people on a personal scale, not just pay your bills. They will come to me with the, you know, I got cancer, I don't know how to tell my children, like you know, domestic violence, child abuse, and it's just like you start listening to things and it resonates, and you realize like, okay, you can serve them a purpose, and you've now gained, like you've started to realize what you're really good at, which is that you're speaking and people listen to you.
Yeah.
And people respect you, like as what you do. People really respect you. They really look up to you, and they really inspire you. So you might not relate to every single child, but they will they'll listen to you and think, right, there's an element of truth, and you've gained that trust with them. And I think that's a very powerful position to be in.
It's a blessing.
Back to your hip hop bars.
Yeah.
So the bad conditions, was that back home?
It's mainly back home.
That's cool.
Mainly back home. Here as well. It's like I was raised by a single mum.
Yeah.
So it was tough, man. Like certain times.
What was the hardest thing about being raised by a single mother?
I think seeing mum tired, and then seeing her fall asleep on the prayer mat, and then being like, I should be praying. Mum's come home from work, and she's praying and falling asleep. But yeah, I think seeing her work like 2 jobs certain times. Did that
ever make you want to? Because I literally interviewed a person. Obviously, this episode's gonna be released a bit later on, but episode 4, it's called Life After Prison, and I spoke to someone. And I saw someone I interviewed someone who said that they decided to start hustling to help provide for mum. And was that ever a thing or a thought process in your head where you're like, do you know what, I need to...
Definitely. I remember watching Diddy be just the ultimate hustler, and hearing how Diddy wanted to promote Biggie and Craig Mack. And so he took this tape around, but it was like put in a bun. So it was like Biggie, Big Mac.
Sick.
Do you know what I mean? And was giving it to people as a promo. So this guy's a hustler.
That's it.
And so I got to a stage where I've had t-shirt collection, African collection, perfume oils. Like I've gone through this thing where it's like, what can I do to bring in extra so that we can make something happen? I would sell sweets in school.
Yes, that's a true hustler.
I would lend money to people.
Interest.
And with interest. And then there was one time, this is going to be bad, me saying this.
It's right, man. It's part of
one time when somebody racked up so much interest, they ended up having to give me like products they would...
You gave them, they give you their kicks on their phone?
It was like, I remember there was a tennis racket, I think a Walkman, like it was
Tell
just
me your
like,
age, about telling me your age, a Walkman.
You know what I mean? So it was just like, okay, we were hustlers. And I saw something the other day where it's like, we need to move from this lifestyle of hustlers, but we still do it.
Yeah.
We still do it. Like I did during Black History Month, I would go from school, run home, jump on a Zoom. I'm with a corporate organization. Evening, boom, I've got a show. Like if there is time, there's space, gap, I'm going to fit it in.
But that's it. I think even like the stuff that kids do growing up, like you selling sweets at school and your interests that you gained from lending people money, it kind of shapes your skill set, the transferable skills. So it may be not so ethically correct, or morally correct, but you can transfer it into now your hustle of being able to spread yourself in different places and think out the box and think creatively. And it's survival mode. And I think that's it. And I think that's the one thing, like you talk about your mum and, you know, watching her was hard. And I think that's something that I wanted to change in my son. Like, you know, I was at some point like working full time, podding, baking, doing different things, just constantly trying to think of ways to provide. And then I realized I need to be present. I started listening to people's stories and, you know, it's like mum's always busy. And this is why we had time on our hands. And this is why we had, do you know what I mean? So for me, I'm like, I don't shy away from the concept of I would love to be a present mother. It's not old school, it's not outdated. I don't believe in the 2022 feminism vibe. Like a woman's role is to be present and to be able to watch their children evolve and influence that and impact it day to day. And working stretch hours is so hard because you want to be present and you're doing this for your children. But on the flip side, your child is now out and they got too much time and then they end up getting themselves in situations because there's no youth centres. There's nothing. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking I don't think they can ever reintroduce youth centres.
Right.
I think that's gone. Because I was thinking, let's just say tomorrow,
Yeah. Would you even
The
let your
Prime
child
Minister,
go?
it's hot.
Yeah.
The culture has changed.
Yeah, it's changed so much.
Like genuinely,
Yeah.
if they said we're going to open youth centres again, and we're going to have this, you're going to need security.
Yep.
You're going to need metal detectors. You're going to need stops and searches when you enter. You're going to have to get people ID check the areas, because it just, you know where people are going, where they're hanging out.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame, because
It's true.
that would have been a good lifeline for parents.
It's true.
Because I think a lot of the kids were like just chilling, writing bars, playing like table tennis, whatever it is. They facilitated mentors.
No, for real.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Something's just came to me. You were asking about back home and here. So now I said to you, me and my cousin came back. My cousin was the academical don. I just wanted to read comics and watch cartoons.
As we do.
Oh! But that was not the cool thing.
To be academic.
No, he was the cool one.
Oh, he was
academic.
In whose eyes?
In my mum's eyes.
Yeah.
In my uncle's eyes. And so it was hard, almost to feel worthy, because it's just almost like, I don't have this, but I just want to be in the creative world. And I didn't know it at the time. Like, why am I in love with cartoons? Why do I love hip hop? Why am I playing the same song 10, 20 times?
Yeah.
I'm listening to the same tracks, and I'm just like, that was my world.
Comparison's dangerous. And I think
time.
Our parents are all guilty of this.
Yeah.
I would get compared to my cousins, to my best friends. I got to your school friends. Oh, why is she getting this and you're not getting this? And it's interesting, because I spoke about this before, like maybe in like last season. My mum only praised me behind my back, like on the phone to her friends. She'd be like, "Oh, yeah, Heba's da, 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 da." But to my face, it wasn't. It was. And they thought this comparison will motivate you to do better, rather than you're going, well, bun you, cousin, bun my best friend. And it happens, and it's caused damage. Like, my sister wore hijab when she was younger, and her auntie would compare her daughter to her and friends and stuff. And they'd put my sister on a pedestal, even though she's a flawed human being, just happened to put hijab before everyone else, right? But still was a typical teenager, moving whatever. Then her friends grew resentment towards her, because she was now this magic child who was performing, and she was like, bro, I'm just a regular don. And it's like she wanted to build relationship, and the parents build barriers instead. Like,
and don't get me in front of parents. Like, sometimes schools will get me to do parents, and I'll be like, you have to empower your children. And the last workshop I did, I taught them about decide, choose and pick. Yeah, decide, choose and pick. So when you're having a conversation with your child, they might say something like, can I have an orange? And you say, if you decide to have an orange now, you're choosing to not have one later. So that gives the child the power to be able to make that decision. So then it's a case of it's like, oh, so you chose to be in the principal's office today. Well, so-and-so punched me. And how did you choose to respond? And then they're like, well, it was his fault. So, okay, what did you decide to do? So each and every single time, it's like, it's yours. Decide, choose, pick. And one of the parents pointed out, she's usually like, well, if you're having one now, you're not having one later. And she's like, that decide, choose, pick sounds a lot better. In terms of, the communication.
That's literally what I do with my son. I literally go like, here's your snacks. Like, he's like, oh, mom, I'm like, this is what you have. You can have this now. You can have it later. You can save it and have if money wise even, we can save it and have more money tomorrow and buy a bigger thing. And then I give him options. And he's like, okay, let me see how much this thing is. Yeah, we negotiate, we discuss. We're plotting together. But I think, changing that narrative. I don't think we have time to go for everything else.
Cool.
However, I would like to know, now that you're in your grownish age, what would you do differently now if, God willing, you become a parent, in regards to changing? What narratives are you very proud of, and what narratives would you really like to change?
I'd have to perform that. I spit some bars.
No, that's the cliffhanger.
That's I gotta spit some bars, man.
I mean, would you like to do that right now?
Yeah.
Oh, snap.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is an exclusive. Yeah. All right, okay.
I was in science when the call came. It's a boy. Finally, I get to give you what I never had, I need to let you know that I'm so proud of the man that you're becoming. But like me, you had something missing. That heavenly father, daddy, papa, all these terms of endearment, no choice but to harbour. Over my pepper grains, you won't endure the same saga. So we had conversations while you were still in diapers. The way you focused though, I'm sure you understood this, brother. Big brother oath. I promise to be here. Even if the Lord turns me ghost, I won't disappear. Malaria almost took my life. The way you shedded tears, I do feel guilty though. For that time I never loaned you my hoodie, bro. That was just selfish, filling up my ego. Ain't it the little things that are destroying the eco? Was I wrong for giving licks when school called home? Maybe I should have gone to more games when time loaned. I can only beg for your forgiveness if I wasn't enough. Any bad blood towards him, just let go and let God. So this one is for my big brothers that had to play father. Big brothers that had to play father. Big brothers that had to play father. Because all we ever wanted was for them to do better.
That's amazing. I was not ready for this. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Love.
Any final thoughts? Hebby, you're amazing. Thank you so much.
When I say story, say story.
Sorry.
Story.
Sorry.
So there's a story about a snail that takes 7 years to cross the road. As soon as it gets to the other side, a huge, massive tree falls, lands, bow, and just misses the snail. The snail turns around, looks at the tree, and says, phew, it sure is good to be fast. And the question is the snail slow or is the snail fast? I leave your audience to decide.
That's sick. Thank you. Do you know what this reminds me of my wedding day? So for those who don't know, Alan was at my wedding reception and we did story.
Yeah, I did.
And
I did my
it was about the pen.
story. The
right?
pencil, yeah.
The pencil. That was sick. That was incredible. Can you let people know where to find you? Also, any projects that you're about to drop? I know 17th is an important date, but we're not going to drop this episode till after. So you can just
That's cool.
promote it in general.
Yeah, so please follow me on all social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just search Alim Kamara. That's me at Alim Kamara. In terms of projects, I will be traveling to India, inshallah, in the next 2 weeks, and then Sierra Leone to go and do a documentary, and in February going Marrakesh. So please connect so you can see what's going on, and I'm going to be releasing more music, a lot more music, in 2023.
So the adult material's coming through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's a children's book of poetry coming through as well.
You're busy.
Have to
That's
be.
incredible.
I enjoy it.
You're doing what you love. You're doing what you genuinely thrive off. That's incredible.
Yeah.
When I grow up, I want to be like you. Guys,
this is Growing Up British. No, I'm joking.
Guys, you have been listening to Growing Up British. You had Alim in the building. And I am Hebs. You can catch me literally on Instagram, and I am Hebs with a Z, grownup.british.h, also on the gram. Or you can subscribe, and follow on YouTube, which is Mama Hebs. Thank you.
Grownish, smartish, British.
We are British, apparently.